Ambassador Sarah Chen stood in the center of the grand chamber, and she had never felt so small. The chamber was massive, built to hold representatives from 10,000 worlds. Above her, seating rows in circular tiers that reached so high the ceiling disappeared into shadow. Thousands of alien beings filled those seats. Some had scales, others had fur. Some breathed oxygen like her. Others wore environment suits filled with gases she could not pronounce. They all stared down at her with eyes that numbered anywhere from 1 to dozens. She wore her formal ambassador uniform, dark blue with the Earth insignia on her shoulder. Her hands were clasped behind her back, and she kept her face calm even though her heart pounded against her ribs. She had been an ambassador for 15 years. She had negotiated trade deals and peace treaties. She had walked into dangerous situations before, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. The Speaker of the Galactic Council rose from the central podium. He was a Vortan, tall and thin with silver skin that seemed to glow under the chamber lights. His forearms spread wide in a gesture that meant he was about to make an official declaration. The chamber fell silent. Even the translator devices stopped their quiet humming. "The Galactic Council has reached a decision," the speaker said. His voice was translated into 1,000 languages simultaneously, filling the chamber with a strange harmony of sound. "We have debated for 3 cycles. We have reviewed the evidence. We have listened to testimony from 47 species who have had contact with humanity. The vote has been counted and verified." Sarah felt sweat on her palms. She had known this was coming. Earth's government had warned her, but knowing and experiencing were 2 different things. "The Council finds that humanity represents a threat to galactic stability," the speaker continued. "Your species expands too quickly. You refuse to follow established protocols. You question traditions that have maintained peace for millennia. You make alliances without permission. You develop weapons without oversight. You reject the wisdom of elder species," Sarah wanted to argue. She wanted to tell them that humanity only expanded into empty systems, that their so-called protocols were designed to keep younger species weak and dependent. That questioning was not the same as threatening. But she kept her mouth shut. She had been ordered to listen, not to debate. Therefore, by a vote of 9,217 in favor, 643 against, and 140 abstaining, the Galactic Council hereby expels humanity from interstellar civilization. All trade agreements are void. All research partnerships are terminated. All embassies must be closed within 30 standard days. All human vessels must withdraw from Council space within 90 days. Any human found in Council territory after this period will be arrested and detained. The words hit Sarah like physical blows. She had expected it, but hearing it made real changed everything. Earth was being cast out. Humanity was being exiled from the galaxy they had worked so hard to join. "Do you accept this judgment?" the speaker asked. Sarah looked up at the thousands of faces staring down at her. She saw satisfaction on some, relief on others. A few looked sad or uncomfortable, but not enough to have changed the vote. She thought about everything humanity had accomplished in the 70 years since first contact. The colonies they had built. The discoveries they had made. The friendships they had formed with the few species who saw them as equals rather than dangerous children. "I accept that the Council has made this decision," Sarah said carefully. Her voice was steady. "I will deliver your message to Earth." "Then this session is concluded," the speaker said. "Humanity has 30 days to begin withdrawal." The chamber erupted in noise. Some aliens cheered. Others began discussing what this meant for their own worlds. A few rose and left immediately, as if they could not bear to be in the same room as her any longer. Sarah walked toward the exit. Her escort, 2 council guards who had been with her for weeks, kept their distance now. They did not want to be associated with the expelled species. She did not blame them. They were just following orders. Outside the chamber, the grand hallway was nearly empty. Most beings were still inside, celebrating or commiserating. Sarah's communication device buzzed. She pulled it from her pocket and saw messages flooding in from Earth. The broadcast had been live. Everyone back home had watched her stand alone in that chamber, while the galaxy rejected them. She opened the priority channel to the Secretary General. His face appeared on the small screen, and she could see the anger in his eyes. "They actually did it," he said. "Yes, sir." "How long do we have?" 30 days to close embassies. 90 days to withdraw all ships and personnel from Council space." The Secretary General was quiet for a moment. Then he nodded. "Bring everyone home, Ambassador Chen. Every diplomat, every scientist, every student studying at their universities. We are done asking for their approval. Sir, there might be a way to appeal. Some species voted against this. No. His voice was firm. They made their choice. Now we make ours. If the galaxy does not want us, then we will build our own future. Come home, Sarah, we have work to do. The communication ended. Sarah stood in the empty hallway and looked back at the massive doors of the grand chamber. She had walked through those doors filled with hope that humanity could find a place among the stars. She walked away from them knowing that humanity would have to make their own place instead. She sent out the recall order to every human embassy across council space. Within hours, diplomats began packing. Scientists abandoned their research. Students left their classes. The message went out to 70 human colonies scattered across claimed space. Begin withdrawal procedures. Prepare for isolation. The galaxy had voted. Now humanity would respond. And Sarah Chen had a feeling that in 50 years the council would regret this day. Humanity had survived ice ages and plagues and wars. They had climbed from caves to starships in 10,000 years. Being expelled from a club they never truly fit into would not stop them. It would make them stronger. Captain Marcus Webb watched the last transport ship lift off from the landing pad. Its engines burned bright blue against the purple sky of Kendara Prime, a world humanity had called home for 30 years. 3,000 colonists had lived here, farming the valleys and mining the mountains. Now those valleys were empty and the mines were sealed. The transport climbed toward orbit where the colony ship Perseverance waited. Marcus could see it on his data pad, a massive vessel designed to carry entire communities across the stars. It was one of 47 ships gathering human colonists from across council space. That is the last one, Captain, Lieutenant Hayes said beside him. She was young, barely 25, and this was her first real crisis. All personnel accounted for, all equipment loaded or destroyed per protocol. Good. Marcus closed his datapad and looked around the empty colony. The buildings would stay. Council law said they could not destroy permanent structures when withdrawing from a world. Some other species would move in eventually, probably within a year. They would live in houses humans built, walk on roads humans paved, and never think about the people who had been forced to leave. It does not seem fair, Hayes said quietly. Fair has nothing to do with it, Marcus replied. The council made their decision. We follow orders, but Hayes was right. It was not fair. The humans on Kendara Prime had broken no laws. They had paid their taxes to the council. They had followed every regulation. They had even won awards for their environmental management. None of that mattered now. They were human, and humans were no longer welcome. Marcus's communication device chirped. He answered it and saw Admiral Zhao's face appear. The Admiral was coordinating the entire withdrawal operation from Earth. Captain Webb, what is your status? Kendara Prime is evacuated, Admiral. All colonists are aboard the Perseverance. We are ready to depart. Good. You are the last colony in Sector 7. Once you reach the border, you will join Convoy Delta. They will escort you back to Sol. Understood, Admiral. Marcus hesitated. Any word on the colonies that refused to leave? Admiral Zhao's expression darkened. New Berlin and Covenant Station have declared independence. They say they will not abandon their homes. The Council has given them one warning. After that, they will send enforcement fleets. Marcus felt his stomach tighten. New Berlin had 15,000 people. Covenant Station had 20,000. They were some of the oldest human colonies, established almost 50 years ago. The people there had been born in space. Earth was just a name to them. These worlds were their home. What will we do? Marcus asked. Nothing, Zhao said, and Marcus could hear the frustration in his voice. Command has decided that we cannot risk war. If those colonies choose to stay, they do so without Earth's protection. We have sent them warnings. We have offered them transport. They have refused. We cannot force them. The communication ended. Marcus stood on the empty landing pad and thought about those colonists who would not leave. He understood them. Asking someone to abandon their home was like asking them to cut off an arm. But staying meant facing the Council's enforcement fleets, and those fleets did not negotiate. Sir, we should go, Hayes said. The Perseverance is waiting. Marcus nodded and followed her to their shuttle. Within an hour, they were in orbit and the Perseverance was moving away from Kendara Prime. Marcus watched the planet shrink on the view screen. Purple skies and green valleys disappeared into a small dot. then into nothing. The journey to the border took 8 days. Along the way, they joined other ships. The convoy grew until it stretched across thousands of kilometers of space. Colony ships, transport vessels, cargo haulers, and military escorts all traveling together in a river of light. On the 5th day, they passed a council patrol fleet. 20 warships positioned along the border, watching to make sure the humans actually left. The patrol did not hail them or interfere. They just watched with their sensors locked on every human vessel. "They are making sure we go," Hayes said bitterly. "Let them watch," Marcus replied. "In 10 years they will wish they had treated us better." On the 8th day they crossed into human space. The border was just an invisible line in space, but everyone on board felt it. They were no longer in Council territory. They were home. Convoy Delta waited for them. 30 military ships arranged in a protective formation. The lead ship was the Beijing, a heavy cruiser commanded by Admiral Rodriguez. She had been tasked with making sure every human convoy made it safely back to Sol. "Welcome back, Perseverance." Rodriguez's voice came through the communication channel. "You are the last convoy from the Outer Rim. All colonists have been accounted for." "What about New Berlin and Covenant Station?" Marcus asked. There was a long pause. "New Berlin was evacuated by force 3 days ago. The council sent a fleet. The colonists resisted. 47 people died before they surrendered. Covenant Station saw what happened and agreed to evacuate. Both colonies are now empty." Marcus closed his eyes. 47 dead, all because they wanted to stay in their homes. "The council has issued a statement," Rodriguez continued. "They say the use of force was regrettable but necessary." "They claim the colonists fired first, did they?" Hayes asked. "Does it matter?" Marcus replied. "The story is written. The council will say whatever they need to say." The journey back to Sol took another month. The convoy moved slowly, held back by the oldest and slowest ships. Along the way, they passed other convoys heading in the same direction. Thousands of ships, millions of people, all flowing back toward Earth like a tide returning to shore. Marcus spent his time reading reports. The withdrawal was massive. 70 human colonies abandoned. 15 research stations closed. 200 embassies emptied. Every human in council space was coming home, whether they wanted to or not. But not all the reports were bad. Some were interesting. Several alien species had contacted Earth secretly, saying they disagreed with the exile. A few had offered to maintain trade relationships outside of council authority. Others had expressed interest in joining a human alliance if one was ever formed. The galaxy was not united in its rejection of humanity. There were cracks in the council's authority, and some species were tired of being told what to do. When the convoy finally reached Sol, Marcus stood on the bridge of the Perseverance and stared at the blue and white planet that hung in space before them. Earth, home to 10 billion humans, birthplace of their species, and now their prison. "It is beautiful," Hayes said beside him. "It is," Marcus agreed, "but it is not enough. Humanity was meant for more than one star system." "What will we do?" Marcus smiled. "We will survive. We will adapt, and we will expand. The council thinks exile will weaken us. They are wrong. It will make us stronger. We will build our own path now, without asking permission." The Perseverance descended toward Earth, joining hundreds of other ships in orbit. Below them, the planet was busy. Shipyards were expanding. Factories were running at full capacity. Scientists were working around the clock. Earth had accepted the challenge. The galaxy had voted to exile them. Now humanity would show the galaxy what a mistake that was. Dr. Jennifer Park stared at the alien engine core on her workbench and smiled. It was Vorton technology, salvaged from a decommissioned cargo ship that humanity had purchased years ago. Back then, they had been required to return all alien technology when they were done with it. Now, with the exile in effect, those rules no longer applied. "Are you ready?" her assistant Dr. Chen asked. He was not related to Ambassador Chen, though they shared a last name. He was a quantum physicist while she was an engineer, and together they had been tasked with something the council had always forbidden. "Understanding and improving alien technology. Start the scan," Jennifer said. The scanner hummed to life and holographic displays filled the air around the engine core. Lines of data streamed past, showing energy patterns and quantum signatures that would have taken years to understand using old methods. But humanity had been cut off from the galaxy for 3 years now. And 3 years of desperation had produced remarkable tools. The quantum field stabilizer is here, Chen said, pointing to a component deep inside the core. This is what allows their ships to maintain slipstream velocity without tearing apart. The Council designs use a triple redundancy system, which is why their ships are slow, Jennifer said. Too much safety, not enough efficiency. What if we used a single stabilizer but reinforced it with our graviton mesh? Chen ran the numbers through their simulation. His eyes widened. It would work. The ship would be 30% faster. 40%, Jennifer corrected, adjusting the parameters. If we also modify the field generator to pulse instead of maintaining constant output. More risk, but much better performance. They worked through the night, rebuilding the engine core with human modifications. By morning, they had something that looked half Vortan and half human, a hybrid technology that should not exist according to Council regulations. Those regulations had always said that younger species could use alien technology, but never modify it. Understanding led to independence, and the Council preferred dependent species, but humanity was no longer bound by those rules. Test it, Jennifer said. They installed the modified core in a small probe and launched it from Earth Station 3. Jennifer watched the telemetry data as the probe accelerated. It reached slipstream velocity in 12 seconds, half the time of a normal ship. Then it jumped to faster than light speed. We are reading stable field integrity, Chen reported. Energy consumption is down 20%. Velocity is, wait, this cannot be right. What is it? The probe is traveling at 1.6 times normal slipstream speed. That should not be possible, Jennifer laughed. It was a sound of pure joy. Send the data to Admiral Zhao. Tell him we just made our ships faster than anything in the Council fleet. The news spread quickly through Earth's scientific community. If they could improve slipstream drives, what else could they improve? Within weeks, 100 research teams were tearing apart every piece of alien technology they had salvaged or purchased. Weapons, shields, sensors, life support systems. Everything was examined, understood, and rebuilt with human modifications. The Council had always said humans were too young to understand advanced technology. They were wrong. Humans understood it just fine. They simply understood it differently. Dr. Sarah Okafor made the next breakthrough 6 months later. She was a biologist working on terraforming technology. The Council's methods took centuries to transform a barren world into something livable. Their approach was slow and careful, designed not to disturb existing ecosystems. But humans did not have centuries. They needed results fast. Sarah stood in the observation dome of Mars Research Station and looked out at the red landscape. Mars had been humanity's first terraforming project, started 100 years ago using old Earth technology. Progress had been slow. The atmosphere was still too thin. The temperature was still too cold. At the current rate, Mars would not be fully habitable for another 200 years. What if we do not try to copy Earth? Sarah said to her team. What if we make something new? Her colleague, Dr. Amari, looked at her skeptically. Explain. The Council's terraforming techniques try to recreate the donor species' homeworld. They want every planet to be like their original planet, but why? Why not create planets optimized for human life, even if they look different from Earth? She brought up her research on the holographic display. I have been studying extremophile organisms, life that thrives in conditions that would kill normal species. What if we seed planets with modified organisms designed for that specific world? Instead of changing the planet to match Earth, we change the life to match the planet. That would be faster, Amari admitted. But the Council banned genetic modification of terraforming organisms. They said it was too dangerous. The Council is not here, Sarah replied. And we need results. Her team spent a year developing new organisms. Bacteria that could survive in acid rain, algae that thrived in sub-zero temperatures, plants that grew in low gravity. Each organism was designed for a specific type of world, and each could establish itself in years instead of centuries. They tested the technique on Titan, one of Saturn's moons. The Council had declared Titan unsuitable for terraforming because it was too cold and too distant from the sun. Sarah's team proved them wrong. Within 5 years, Titan had a breathable atmosphere and surface temperatures suitable for human habitation. It did not look like Earth. The sky was orange and the plants were purple. But humans could live there without environment suits. The success on Titan changed everything. Suddenly, worlds that the Council had dismissed as worthless became valuable. Humanity began identifying hundreds of potential colony sites in their own territory, places too cold or too hot or too distant for Council species, but perfect for human innovation. While the scientists worked, the military was also adapting. General Patricia Kamani commanded Earth Defense Force, and she knew that isolation made humanity vulnerable. The Council might not want them as members, but that did not mean the Council would leave them alone. There were species in the galaxy who would see exile as an opportunity to attack. "We need better ships," Kamani told the Defense Committee. "Our current fleet was designed to work alongside Council forces. Now we are alone. We need vessels that can defend our territory without backup." The military contracted with the same scientists who had improved the slipstream drives. Within 2 years, humanity had a new generation of warships. They were faster than Council vessels. Their shields were stronger. Their weapons hit harder. And they were built in Earth's shipyards where no Council inspector could review the designs or impose limitations. By the 5th year of exile, humanity's transformation was remarkable. Trade between human colonies had increased. Technology had advanced faster than ever before. New colonies were being established in systems the Council had ignored. And all of it was happening without asking anyone's permission. But the most important changes were not technological. They were cultural. Humanity had been rejected by the galaxy, and that rejection had unified them in a way that nothing else could. Old divisions between nations and colonies faded. Everyone was human first now. Everyone shared the same goal. Dr. Jennifer Park stood in front of the United Earth Assembly and presented her team's latest breakthrough. They had developed a quantum communication system that was faster and more secure than anything the Council possessed. Messages that used to take days now took seconds. The Council always said we needed them, Jennifer told the assembled leaders. They said we were too primitive to survive alone. But look at what we have accomplished. We are not just surviving, we are thriving. In 5 years, we have advanced more than we did in the previous 50. Ambassador Chen, now retired but still influential, stood up from her seat. "The question is, what do we do with all this innovation? Do we hide it and hope the Council leaves us alone? Or do we show the galaxy what we have become?" The Assembly debated for hours. Some wanted to maintain isolation. Others wanted to reach out to other species, the ones who had voted against exile or who had contacted Earth secretly. Finally, the Secretary General made the decision. "We will not hide," he declared. "We will expand our territory. We will welcome any species who wish to trade with us outside Council authority, and we will defend ourselves if anyone tries to stop us." The galaxy rejected us. Now we will build something better. In orbit above Earth, the shipyards were working at full capacity. New colony ships were being built every month. Exploration vessels were being sent to distant systems, and the military fleet was growing larger and more powerful every day. Humanity had been exiled from the galaxy. But exile had given them something more valuable than Council membership. It had given them freedom, and with that freedom, they would forge their own path among the stars. Commander Julia Reeves stood on the bridge of the exploration vessel Pathfinder and watched the new star system materialize on her view screen. It was designated System 847 in the Earth database, but she was about to give it a proper name. If it was suitable for colonization, that is. Initial scans complete. Lieutenant Morrison reported from the science station. System contains 1 yellow star, 7 planets, and an asteroid belt. The 3rd planet is in the habitable zone. Life signs? Julia asked. Negative. No complex life detected. Bacterial signatures only. Julia smiled. Another empty system perfect for human colonization. In the 50 years since exile, humanity had surveyed 800 systems and established colonies in 147 of them. They had doubled their territory and they showed no signs of slowing down. "Send the data to Earth," Julia ordered. "Mark this system as suitable. I am designating it New Shanghai." "Yes, Commander." The Pathfinder moved deeper into the system, scanning each planet in detail. The 3rd planet was beautiful, covered in blue oceans and green continents. It had oxygen in the atmosphere and water on the surface. It was almost too perfect. "Something is strange," Morrison said, studying his displays. "This planet should have more complex life. The conditions are ideal, but there is nothing except bacteria and simple plants." "Maybe something wiped it out," Julia suggested. "Disease, asteroid impact, climate change." Or maybe the council knew about it and kept it empty, Morrison replied. This system is just beyond their border. Close enough to claim, but they never did. Julia understood what he meant. For millennia, the Galactic Council had surveyed the galaxy and claimed the best worlds for themselves. They left the difficult planets for younger species, places that required massive effort to make livable. But this planet needed no effort at all. Any species could live here immediately. So why had the Council ignored it? Keep scanning, Julia ordered. If there is something wrong with this planet, I want to know before we send colonists. They spent 3 days studying New Shanghai. They found no hidden dangers, no unstable geology, no dangerous radiation, no toxic elements in the soil. The planet was perfect, and that made Julia suspicious. In her 20 years of exploration, she had learned that nothing was ever truly perfect. On the 4th day, they discovered why the Council had avoided the system. It was not because of the planet. It was because of the location. New Shanghai sat at the intersection of 3 major trade routes that the Council deliberately avoided. These routes cut through regions of space the Council had declared too dangerous for travel. Too dangerous for them, Morrison said, but not for us, Julia understood. Human ships were faster and more durable than Council vessels. They could navigate hazards that would destroy older ships. The routes the Council avoided humanity could use, and those routes led to unclaimed systems, worlds that no one else wanted or could reach. This changes everything, Julia said quietly. If we colonize New Shanghai, we control these trade routes. Any species that wants to use them will have to deal with us. She sent a priority message to Earth explaining what they had found. The response came back within hours. Colonize immediately. Send more exploration ships to survey the surrounding systems. Find every world the Council considered unreachable and claim it for humanity. Within a year, New Shanghai had 50,000 colonists. Within 5 years, it had 500,000. The planet became a hub for human expansion, a launching point for deeper exploration into regions the Council had written off as worthless. But humanity was not expanding alone. Other species were watching, and some liked what they saw. Captain David Zhang commanded the trading vessel Prosperity, and he was about to make contact with a species humanity had never officially met. The Kalari were a reptilian race from the other side of the galaxy. They were nominally members of the Galactic Council, but they had a reputation for independence. They followed Council rules when it suited them and ignored those rules when it did not. The Kalari ship appeared on David's sensors as he entered the neutral trading station in the Threshold system. The station was privately owned beyond Council jurisdiction, and it had become a meeting place for species who wanted to do business. Without Council oversight, they are hailing us, his communications officer reported. Open a channel. The view screen showed a Kalari captain, her scales a deep green color and her eyes golden. She smiled, showing dozens of sharp teeth. Human ship Prosperity. I am Captain Cesara of the trade vessel Windrunner. I have been hoping to meet your species, Captain Zhang of Earth. The feeling is mutual. What can I do for you, Captain Cesara? I wish to discuss a business arrangement. My people have watched humanity's expansion with great interest. You have established colonies in systems we cannot easily reach. You have developed technologies we cannot easily access. We have resources and knowledge you might find valuable. Perhaps we can help each other. David had been authorized to negotiate exactly this kind of arrangement. Earth wanted allies, or at least trading partners, among species who were tired of Council restrictions. The Kalari seemed perfect. I am listening, David said. Over the next 3 hours, they worked out the basics of a trade agreement. The Kalari would provide rare elements and advanced manufacturing techniques. Humanity would provide access to their faster ships and new territories. Both species would benefit, and the Council would have no say in the matter. There is one more thing, Isara said as they finished. Other species are watching humanity. Some fear you. Others admire you. A few wish to leave the Council and join whatever alliance you are building. But they are afraid to be the first. They need to see that it is possible to thrive outside the Council's authority. And you want to be the first? David asked. My people have never truly belonged in the Council. We joined because we had no choice. Now, seeing what humanity has accomplished, we see another path. If you will have us, the Kalari would like to form a formal alliance with Earth. David knew this was beyond his authority. This was a decision for the government back on Earth. But he also knew an opportunity when he saw one. If the Kalari, a species with 300 colony worlds and advanced technology allied with humanity. It would send a message to the entire galaxy. "I will carry your proposal to Earth personally," David said. "I believe my government will be very interested." The proposal caused intense debate on Earth. Some leaders worried that an alliance would provoke the Council. Others argued that humanity could not afford to turn down willing allies. Finally, the Secretary General made the decision. "We will accept the Kalari Alliance, and we will make it public. Let the Council see that we are not isolated. We are building something new." The announcement shocked the galaxy. The Kalari were an old species, respected and established. For them to ally with exiled humanity was unprecedented. It suggested that maybe the Council had made a mistake. Maybe humanity was not a threat to be isolated, but a partner to be valued. Within 5 years, 6 more species had left the Council and joined what was now being called the Human Alliance. Some were small species, only a handful of colony worlds. Others were larger and more influential. Each brought their own strengths. The Kalari had manufacturing expertise. The Tethrans had medical knowledge. The Novari had agricultural technology that could make barren worlds bloom. Together, they created something the galaxy had never seen. An alliance based not on dominance or ancient hierarchy, but on mutual benefit. Every species was equal. Every species had a voice. Decisions were made by consensus, not by decree from elder races. Ambassador Sarah Chen, now very old but still active, stood before the Alliance Council and addressed the assembled representatives. Humans, Kalari, Tethrans, Novari, and 3 other species filled the chamber. It was smaller than the Galactic Council's grand chamber, but the atmosphere was different. There was no sense of judgment here, no hierarchy of importance. 50 years ago, humanity was exiled from the galaxy, Sarah said. The Council said we were too dangerous, too unpredictable, too different. They expected us to wither in isolation. Instead, we thrived. We innovated, we expanded, and we found others who shared our vision of a different kind of galactic community. She looked around the chamber at the diverse faces watching her. This alliance is not perfect. We argue, we disagree. We make mistakes, but we are partners, not subjects. We build together, not under the rule of ancient species who fear change. The Council exiled humanity thinking it would eliminate a problem. Instead, they created an alternative. Outside the Alliance headquarters, which had been built on the colony world of New Shanghai, thousands of ships moved through space. Human vessels, Kalari traders, Tethran medical ships, Novari agricultural transports. The Alliance was growing, and with it, humanity's influence spread across the galaxy. In the Council's territory, leaders watched these developments with growing concern. They had expected humanity to fade into irrelevance. Instead, humanity had become the center of a new power block, one that was attracting species who had once been loyal Council members. The exile had not weakened humanity. It had freed them to build something better, and now the galaxy would have to deal with the consequences of that mistake. The Galactic Council chamber looked the same as it had 50 years ago, but the atmosphere was different. Then the chamber had been filled with confidence and certainty. Now there was tension and worry. The Council had called an emergency session, and every representative knew why. Speaker Vorath stood at the central podium. He was not the same speaker who had announced humanity's exile. That speaker had retired 20 years ago, satisfied that he had protected the galaxy from a dangerous species. Vorath had inherited a much more complicated situation. The Council acknowledges a growing crisis, Vorath began. In the 50 years since humanity's exile, they have expanded their territory to over 200 colony worlds. They have formed an alliance with 7 species who have left the Council. Trade routes we once controlled now pass through human space. Technologies we developed are being improved and sold by human corporations. And most concerning, 15 additional species have expressed interest in leaving the Council to join the Human Alliance. Murmurs filled the chamber. 15 species. If they all left, the Council would lose nearly 1/10 of its membership. But more than that, it would lose legitimacy. The Council had always claimed to represent galactic civilization. What did it mean if species were choosing to leave? "We face a simple question," a Tethran representative called out. She was one of the few remaining Tethrans in the Council. Most of her species had already joined the Human Alliance. Did we make a mistake? We made the right decision based on the information we had. another representative argued. Humanity was expanding too aggressively. They refused to follow established protocols. They were a threat to stability. And now, the Tethran asked, are they still a threat? Or have they simply proven that our protocols were holding them back? The debate raged for hours. Some council members insisted that humanity remained dangerous and should be contained. Others argued that the exile had backfired spectacularly and needed to be reversed. A few suggested military action, though this was quickly dismissed. The Human Alliance military was now large enough that war would be devastating for everyone. Finally, after 2 days of debate, the Council reached a decision. They would send an envoy to Earth to negotiate humanity's return to the Council. They would offer concessions, apologies, and favorable terms. The important thing was to bring humanity back under Council authority before the situation deteriorated further. The envoy they chose was Ambassador Kelrick, a Vortan diplomat known for his skill in negotiation. He had opposed humanity's exile 50 years ago, though his voice had been in the minority. Now he was being asked to undo what the Council had done. Kelrick's ship, the Harmony, entered the Sol system 3 weeks later. As he approached Earth, he was struck by how much had changed. 50 years ago, Earth had been a single world with modest space infrastructure. Now orbital stations surrounded the planet like a mechanical ring. Shipyards stretched across thousands of kilometers. Defense platforms watched his approach with weapons that made him nervous. Earth traffic control. This is the Harmony requesting approach clearance, his communications officer said. Harmony, you are cleared for approach to Diplomatic Station 1. Welcome to Sol. The space station was new, built specifically for diplomatic meetings. As Kelrick's shuttle approached, he saw ships from a dozen different species docked there. Kalari vessels, Tethran medical ships, Novari freighters. This was not the isolated humanity the Council had expected to find. He was greeted by a human woman in a formal diplomatic uniform. She was young, perhaps 30 years old, and she carried herself with quiet confidence. Ambassador Kelrick, welcome to Earth. I am Ambassador Maria Santos. The Secretary General will see you shortly, but first he has asked that I give you a tour of our facilities. Kelrick understood. This was not generosity. This was a demonstration of power. They wanted him to see what humanity had built so he would understand who he was negotiating with. The tour took 3 hours. Maria showed him research laboratories where human scientists worked on technologies the Council had never imagined. She showed him shipyards where vessels were being built faster than Council regulations would allow. She showed him training facilities where human soldiers practiced with weapons that made Council military equipment look primitive. Impressive, Kelrick admitted. You have accomplished in 50 years what most species take centuries to achieve. We had motivation, Maria replied. When the galaxy rejects you, you have 2 choices. Give up or prove them wrong. Humanity does not give up. Finally, she brought him to the Secretary General's office. Kelrick had expected a large, formal room like the Council's reception halls. Instead, he found a modest office with a desk, some chairs, and a window showing Earth below. The Secretary General was a tall man in his 60s with gray hair and sharp eyes. Ambassador Kelrick, the Secretary General said, shaking his hand. Thank you for coming. Please sit. They sat across from each other, and Kelrick was aware that this moment would shape the next century of galactic politics. He had been authorized to offer humanity nearly anything they wanted. Restoration of full Council membership, trade agreements, research partnerships, formal apologies. Whatever it took, Secretary General, I will be direct. The Council recognizes that humanity's exile may have been a mistake. We would like to discuss terms for your return to the galactic community. The Secretary General smiled, but it was not a warm smile. Ambassador, I appreciate your directness, so let me be equally direct. Humanity is not interested in returning to the Council. Kelrick felt his stomach drop. He had expected negotiation, perhaps demands for better terms or guarantees of fair treatment. He had not expected outright refusal. I understand you may have concerns about how you would be treated, Kelrick said carefully. That is why I am authorized to offer significant concessions. Full voting rights, representation on the Security Council, guaranteed autonomy for your colonies. We can ensure that what happened 50 years ago will never happen again. Ambassador Kelrick, you seem like a reasonable person, the Secretary General said. So I will explain our position clearly. 50 years ago, the Council told us we were too dangerous to be part of galactic civilization. They were right. Kelrick blinked in surprise. I am sorry. We were dangerous to the Council because we questioned their authority. We refused to accept that elder species knew better simply because they were older. We wanted to innovate, to expand, to grow. The Council wanted us to be obedient and patient. That conflict was inevitable. The Secretary General stood and walked to the window, looking down at Earth. The exile was the best thing that ever happened to humanity. It freed us from Council bureaucracy. It let us innovate without asking permission. It forced us to rely on ourselves instead of waiting for Council approval. In 50 years, we have accomplished more than we did in the previous 100. But you have also attracted other species to leave the Council, Kelrick said. You are destabilizing galactic civilization. No, the Secretary General corrected. We are offering an alternative. Species join the human alliance because they see what we have built. A community where every species has equal voice, where innovation is encouraged, not regulated, where expansion is celebrated, not restricted. The Council maintains order through hierarchy and tradition. We offer something different. Kelrick felt a chill. This was worse than he had feared. Humanity was not just rejecting the Council. They were replacing it. What do you want? Kelrick asked quietly. We want nothing from the Council, the Secretary General replied. We are building our own future. If Council species wish to trade with us, they are welcome. If they wish to join our alliance, they are welcome. But we will not submit to Council authority again. That chapter of our history is closed. The Council will not accept this, Kelrick warned. You are creating a rival power block. Some species will see that as a threat. Then they should not have exiled us. The Secretary General returned to his chair. Ambassador Kelrick, I understand you voted against our exile 50 years ago. I respect that. You saw that forcing us out would create problems, and you were right. But the decision was made, and we have adapted. We have thrived. We will not go backward. Kelrick sat in silence for a long moment. He had failed. The Council had sent him to bring humanity back, and humanity had refused. When he returned and delivered this news, there would be panic. Some would call for military action. Others would demand stronger barriers between Council space and human alliance territory. A few might even consider leaving the Council themselves. I will deliver your message, Kelrick said finally, though I fear it will not be well received. I expect it will not, the Secretary General agreed. But the galaxy will adjust. In 10 years or 20 or 50, the Council will realize that the human alliance is not their enemy. We are simply their competition, and competition makes everyone better. Ambassador Maria Santos escorted Kelrick back to his shuttle. As he prepared to depart, she handed him a data chip. What is this? He asked. A gift, she said. Information on some of our recent technological developments. Medical advances, agricultural techniques, energy systems. Nothing military, but things that could help Council species improve their quality of life. We are not your enemies, Ambassador. We simply choose our own path.